sit down with somebody and be like, tell us your idea and we'll help you. And then it just is great. You know, not all successes, obviously. Every story has its failures, and I'm no different. He says, I'll bet you $10,000 that if you can make it to age 21 without drinking or smoking or doing drugs, you can get $10,000. And I'm like, sure, let's do it. I thought that was, I just won the lottery. There's really nothing that substitutes, you know, failing, getting up, dusting yourself off, failing, getting up, dusting yourself off. And at the fourth or fifth one, you're like, okay, I'm starting to get this now.
Welcome to the Eden Group podcast. I am joined today by Brandon Kennington. Brandon, we were introduced by your cousin, Mallory. She was very generous in introducing me. As I explained to you when we first met, the purpose of the Eden Group podcast is to explore the business models that deliver health and wellness to society. You run a product development company called BlueKube. Can you tell us what BlueKube does and how would you explain it?
Yeah, you know, I've from a young age always wanted to be an engineer and an inventor. I literally had that like written in my journal, you know, from like I think age 12. I wanted to be an inventor, and I started inventing things. And you know, I've always wanted to have my own firm that made products, and that was the thing that kind of drove me. And my first real big product was a pet product called Porch Potty. But since then, I've done a lot of fitness products, and we've done you know, different clients' products and different types of applications of fitness. And so now what we do is we have a great team of designers, engineers, and we have our own factory, and we have our own marketing team, and it's a great team of like-minded people that just, you know, get going and build things. And that's been fun ever since. We've been doing it for over 20 years now.
That's amazing. So who are your typical customers or clients?
Yeah, so, you know, I would say half of our products are, you know, in-house home, you know, products that we've built in-house. But the other half of our business is all client-based. And so, you know, we have great word of mouth that people come to our, you know, website and they say, hey, we have a product idea, you know, we've been working on it for a while, but we don't know how to get to the next step, or we don't know how to get it made. Or it's very common for somebody to have an idea. I think we all have that idea, right? Like, I've never met anybody that has never said, I've never had an idea, right? Like, everybody has an idea for a product, and we just make it come to life. You know, we get it across the finish line. We've done it so many times now that it's kind of in our blood. We know what the next steps are, and so the type of clients that come to us are just recently. I have a good friend who trains an NFL player, an NFL quarterback. We'll keep
you keep it confidential.
And he's like, I really work on his arm, and I really want to, like, you know, help him develop some strength in his shoulder, and you know, because they're always worried about, you know, injuries and such. And so I helped him develop, you know, this arm torque system. Actually, it's right here on the back behind me here.
Very cool.
And we designed different sizes and shapes, and he's like, I want to sell this. So, you know, he's now going to start selling it here shortly, and that'll be launched here soon. Or the one that's also there, the Bionic Gym, it broke the record for the most raised money on Kickstarter in its category. These things that you strap onto your thighs, and it does muscle stimulation. It's EMS, which has been around forever. But this particular guy, he invented it and thought, you know, what if we made it so that the body was shivering, and it felt like it was shivering, and therefore was burning calories, and got, you know, because that's what happens when your body is shivering. It's literally like bringing your body heat up. And so you put it on and you just start sweating bullets, and your heart rate goes up, and it just took off. And now he's sold, you know, thousands and thousands of these, and we manufacture it for him. And so those are the kind of clients we have. We also developed one called the Flex Line, which is a cable machine that has an air system.
That was yours. I know
that one is mine.
About that.
Yeah, but that was ours. You know, there's a soccer trainer that wanted a way to bring something to the field that he could set up quickly, that he could put in his back of his car, like a trunk or something, and then he could, you know, raise the soccer ball, and he could train his soccer players how to head the ball correctly, and we developed that for him. So and it goes on and on and on, but it's really fun to just sit down with somebody and be like, tell us your idea and we'll help you. And then it just is great. You know, off it goes, really, and then it gets to market.
So let's go back to 12-year-old Brandon. Where did you grow up? And was this career emulated for you in any way? When did you figure out that this is what you wanted to do?
You know, it's funny. I grew up in Laguna Beach, California, sunny, you know, surf town, and that's a very artsy area. So everybody wanted to do art or do anything but engineering. I felt like I was one of the only engineering minded people in my high school. So when I went off to Purdue University to be a mechanical engineer, I was the only one I knew of that was doing that. And for some reason, it just came naturally to me. I was taking apart my mom's, skates, or I would take things, try to make things around the house. My very first invention when I was like literally in grade school was an alarm clock that I built for myself to get myself up in time for the water polo practice I was having to get up for super early. And essentially I took this fan that was in our garage. I pulled the prop off of it, and it was just a motor, and I attached my sheets and all of my bedding to two strings that get wound up in this fan. So when my alarm clock went off, the music was blaring. I even set it up so all my lights would turn on.
What?
And then all my sheets and all my bedding would come off of me. And the very last touch of it was awesome. It was like this rolled up futon. Back in the day, those things were kind of popular. And I rolled it up, wound it in string, and I put it up on the headboard of my bed. So the last thing that fell on my head was this like big heavy, and that would get me up immediately. So that was my first
that's some like
fun
Ferris
invention.
Bueller. Rube, that's like a Rube Goldberg machine.
Yes, of course. Yeah, and of course I had to be on the Rube Goldberg team. That was also part of my background. But yeah, so I just got kind of into it, and I just loved it, and I loved coming up with new ideas. And so when I got to college and learned how things really worked and do the math of it all and the science of it all, it just all started being able to become real at that point. So yeah, it was fun.
So you graduated Purdue, and then I believe you went to Silicon Valley.
Yeah. Okay. So my first job out of college was actually it was a dream job because it was during the .com era. Everything was booming up there. It was 2000, and it was great because I got hired by a startup that made these snap-in modules for the Palm Pilot, and it's a term that maybe your younger audience wouldn't know, but your older audience would remember the Palm Pilot, which was basically an iPhone, but a black and white version of it that did nothing except keep your contacts and maybe your calendar, and that was about it. But anyways, the thing that was cool about it was this module we were developing was to listen to music. And this was before listening to music on your iPhone, or back then there was not even the iPod, or the iPod wasn't even invented.
Not quite yet. Yeah, that was.
So this was like a brand new concept, and so it really kind of had a life of its own. It took off until the company that actually the true name of the company was Handspring, which was the successor of Palm Pilot, which had this slot in the back, but they removed the slot. So as soon as the slot was removed, there goes the whole company's business model. Because it's like, if you had a product that used the button on the Apple iPhone, and then they decided to remove the button on the iPhone, and now you're like, now what do we do?
That's it.
And so the whole company ended up kind of just taking a dive, which allowed me to say, okay, what's next? What's next for me? And the very next step that I took was I started my own company called BlueKube.
Wow.
And that was 2001. So we've been around for a long time now. Not all successes, obviously. Every story has its failures, and I'm no different. But that was the beginning.
What capital did you take to found BlueKube, and were you your first customer, or did you have an outside party coming to you saying, hey, can you make this thing for me?
It's funny you say that. This might sound, I don't know, we'll see how this turns out, but essentially my father wanted me to stay away from drugs and alcohol and do well in school.
Yeah.
And he says, you just never do drugs, never do. And I said, Dad, I'm not that kind of person. I don't like to do drugs. I don't like to drink. This is when I was like 14, right?
Yeah.
I'm telling him this when I'm at age 14. And he says, I'll bet you $10,000 that if you can make it to age 21 without drinking or smoking or doing drugs, you can get $10,000. And I'm like, sure, let's do it. I thought that was, I just won the lottery. Well, fast forward, going in through college, as you would imagine, of course there's people drinking, there's frat parties, everything's going on. But you know what? I stuck to it. And I actually didn't touch alcohol or drugs or anything until I was 21. Then all my friends got to say I'm 21, and they were excited for me that I could, go to the bars with them and do that.
Finally drink, yeah.
But I made it. And with that $10,000 bet with my dad, I invested that into BlueKube for the very first product.
Good grief. Okay, so you are a person of profound self-discipline. You would have passed the marshmallow test at Stanford for sure.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, you know what? It's funny. I had good friends, and they were all into the party scene, and I would go with them into parties or go with them to the bars. But everybody knew that I had this bet with my dad, and so they were cheerleaders for me. They were the ones that were like, "No, no, no. Brandon can't drink. He's good, but he's here with us because he's a good time." So what I found was it was actually great when you had support around you that was like, "No, Brandon. You know, they're all saying, 'Hey, Brandon can do this. We got you here. We're going to get you across the line.'" So my son is now 16 years old, and you can imagine what I just did a couple of years ago.
Of course. Here's the bet.
Yep. And he said he would, and he took it. I have both a son and a daughter, but just this morning, my son says, "Hey, Dad, I kind of want to start making money. Should I start a business?" I said, "Yeah, you should. You should try starting a business." Obviously, you're trying to encourage your kids to learn business, and whether that be however you can, right? Go to business school, try to start up something on your own, get to a lemonade stand, whatever you can do to just get experience. And so I just told him, this week, and I've been waiting for him to kind of get curious enough to like ask me about this. Because, you as a dad, you're trying to let them do their thing, right? Yeah. But for him now to say, "Hey, what's business? How does a business start?" And now I'm kind of excited to maybe help him see that path. And maybe
that's beautiful.
If he gets that $10,000, he can invest his $10,000 into his first business. So yeah.
So tell me about some of the struggles that you've incurred starting BlueKube in 2001. To today. What are some of the big ones that really stand out in your mind?
Well, I'll start with, I took that $10,000 and blew it. I mean, it really just flew off the door. I had no experience. I had no idea what I was going to do. But with that came the lessons of how to start a business. And everybody who I've met that's been successful at business has been broke at least once, probably a handful of times.
A few times.
Yeah. And with those learnings come just such great knowledge about how business can work and how to maybe do it better the next time. So, gosh, there's been a lot of products I've developed that just fell flat right off day one. Well, I'll start with the one that I blew the $10,000 on. So coming from that first company that made that MP3 player, that music player, I decided to make a version of a music player that would maybe be sitting under your television, and maybe it had a large hard drive on it. Those were the days where you would have to download digital music.
I remember that.
And so with a large hard drive, you could collect music, let's say, in your home, and then have it hooked up to your speakers, and you could have your living room play any music you want. This was a brand new concept. This was before Spotify.
This was pre-Sonos.
Yeah. Oh, before all of that. And this was like when you had to have like a volume knob and the big speakers that that only worked in a certain fashion. So to get music in your living room, you would need a kind of an amp is what they called it, and if I could put a hard drive in the amp, and I could maybe have it connected to my television, and I could like have a user interface, kind of like like Spotify would be now, but on your television.
Yeah.
I bet you I could sell lots of these, and all the music could be downloadable, and you can listen to it. Yeah. And the word BlueKube came from the keychain that I designed, thinking that this would be a little keychain you could keep on your keys. You could go driving wherever you drive, and then you're listening, say, to the radio, and you hear a song you like. And what I found is if you were to push a button, let's say this little button on your keychain, it was a blue cube on the keychain. And the blue cube had a button on it. If you push the button, we could know what the timestamp of that button was, the date and time, and compare it to and cross-reference it with a database of what all the radio stations kept logs of all the songs for licensing purposes and royalty purposes. So I figured if I could get a timestamp, I could, when they get home, I could cross-reference what was playing on their favorite radio station at that time from the royalty database, and then automatically download that and put that on their hard drive, and that would be...
Oh my God.
I know, right? I thought that was a clever idea.
That's very clever.
And so that's where the name BlueKube came from. And so what happened was we were up against a much bigger problem. It was basically digital music on the back of Napster. No record label was interested in licensing their music. They wanted all that digital music stuff to just go away. They wanted to keep on selling CDs because that was their bread and butter. And so no record label, even though I did get a couple meetings with them, none of them wanted to license their music to this, startup. But there was one guy who was able to do it. His name is Steve Jobs. And so Steve Jobs was the guy who actually was able to convince the record labels at that time, hey, this is the future of music. The whole CD thing is going to go away someday.
Yep.
You got to say yes to this. Let's make a deal. And then that's when the iPod came out. Steve Jobs was able to get music licenses, and then the rest is history. But at that point, me, a 22, 23-year-old startup kid, had no chance. So we had a good shot at it because it was a good product, but no way we were able to make that kind of deal.
They talk about this in entrepreneurship so much, how timing is everything, and you really can't control the timing. That's a brilliant idea, but the music labels were still trying to hold on to that cash cow that it was obviously going to die, but they were holding on for dear life.
They were holding on to it because that's all they knew. They thought, gosh, if this digital music got out and everybody can just make copies of it however they want, willy-nilly, there's going to be no way to make any revenue from it. And fast forward now to Spotify and how the industry has certainly changed multiple times since then. But people are still making music. So
how did you rebound from that, right? Because 10,000's gone. Boom, it's gone. I mean, how do you take another swing at the bat?
Yeah, basically burned all the cash I had and ended up having to figure out a way to go make a living. And so given that I was kind of good at, engineering and managing engineers, I got a job at a software company down here in LA, and they did software for the auto loan industry, and so I managed engineers for 2 years. But in the end, I was like, there's something in me that feels like I got to go do this on my own again. So I got enough, just get enough money to survive, and get a small apartment, figure it out. Wash your hands and dust off your knees and say, let's do this again. I even looked at working with my dad. He did real estate for a while. I'm just trying to find ways to kind of learn business again. And so again, it's like business is just it's almost like it's a skill you acquire through experience. There's really nothing they can teach you. Accounting, they can teach you these principles, but there's really nothing that substitutes failing, getting up, dusting yourself off, failing, getting up, dusting yourself off, and at the fourth or fifth one you're like, okay, I'm starting to get this now. And that's when things start to click, and you understand HR, and you understand accounting and doing the numbers and marketing, and there's just so many hats you got to wear. But, stick to it, and eventually it comes together.
So you founded BlueKube in 2001. Essentially what it sounds like is the way you financed additional swings at the ball was by getting a day job, living below your means, saving money, and then trying again.
And do it again.
Money,
lose it all again, and then try it again.
Try it again.
It is nice when you do get lucky and you finally get a hit.
Yeah.
It can get you to the next base again, and that's, I got lucky, and I feel like my first real product was the pet product called the Porch Potty. It's a grass litter box for dogs. I was just about to get married. My soon-to-be wife and I got a puppy, and of course the first, that's your first child, right? So
practice child.
As all puppies are, they need to go out and potty all the time, and we had a little apartment in LA, and I thought, gosh, why don't we just make a little grass area out on our patio, and then we don't have to go down the steps and out the apartment lobby every time. And so I built up a little grass patch, and at the time, this might age me a bit more, but at the time, the business book on the bestsellers was The 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss.
Let's go. That was the second business book that really inspired me to do business. The first one was Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yes, love both of those. But I read that book on a plane and finished it, and it just changed my life. And people always ask, they're like, what is that book, the 4-Hour Workweek? And I'm like, well, you know what, book. It's a bad name. It makes it seem like there's like you only have to work 4 hours, and this is like going to be the end of all you have to do. I think Tim was hoping that it would, I think it marketed itself well.
Yes.
Obviously, people thought, hey, I want to read that book. Let's read that book. So I think he did a good job naming it in that respect. But in no way does it mean like you just can read this book and then start working 4 hours a week.
Correct.
What it means is work your ass off, learn all these tricks and techniques to reduce the requirement of you to work on a day-to-day basis. And maybe over time you can develop a business that kind of works on its own or is automated in some fashion so that you can choose to take time off when and whenever you want. So the point of the book that I got from it was, God, my understanding of how business had to be built was that you had to hire like 100 employees and have the 33rd floor of an office building and pay all this rent and have all these cubicles. And that's the way you succeeded in a business. And for the first time, Tim did an amazing job of outlining how a business can be built with remote workers, with using technology to automate your email systems or your marketing systems or, a website. Gosh, imagine that. You used to have all these salespeople that would have to be salesmen or saleswomen for you, but a website does that for you 24/7. And so it just changed everything about how I looked at business. And it really set into me that I'm like, God, you know what? Let me do the math. I need a website. I need maybe a product to sell. I added it all up. I'm like, that's like $400. To get started. Why not take another swing and spend $400 on like building this website on my own, learn about this, learn about that. And so I said, I need a product. What product should I try this with? And I looked outside and there was that patch of grass on my balcony. And I said, I wonder if other dog owners would want this. And so I took a couple pictures of it. I learned HTML enough to like make my first storefront. And a week went by, nothing. And then one order came in. And I was like, oh,
feeling.
Wow. I just sold my first order of my own product that I developed and put on the web. And now somebody wants it. And my first feeling was elation, like how excited I was. My second feeling was, holy crap, what am I going to send them? Because I only had the one on my on my patio. So I literally took it apart. I actually want to go find this first customer because I don't think I have their information anymore. But I'm thankful and grateful for that person because it really helped me propel the company. But I had to take it apart, find a way to pack it up, wipe all the urine that I had on it from my dog. And send it. And that's what I did. I mean, it's like, what else are you going to do? This is how, like, the nuts and bolts of starting a business, the dirty side of it is like, you just do what you got to do, And so I spent that summer kind of hand building these out of my garage and trying to make it better. And, it's about a $6 million business today every year. It does about $6 million on that.
About $6 million revenue, like continually now.
Yeah. Still 20 years later, it still does, that well. And, we have a new product, we have a new version of it that's about to launch in July. And so, it supports a large team of people, as I mentioned, along with all the other products we're doing. So.
Is that company separate from BlueKube?
No, that's originally I did start it as a new LLC, but this is another learning I've learned over time is, I had like 6, I think up to 9 companies, LLCs at one time, and I was doing kind of the holdco situation, and it got so crazy, and I was like, you know what, let's just consolidate, simplify. It's like when you realize, let's get rid of some of these brands where you aren't focused on, but in this case, I just really wanted to bring it all under one roof. And now all of our products are under one roof. So
beautiful.
Yeah.
So for the porch potty, you clearly proved demand before sinking a bunch of capital into inventory.
Yeah.
Did you do that on the other products you tested, or did you make the mistake on any of your first attempts to like make a bunch of product and then find out, oh no one wants it?
Yeah.
When did you learn that lesson?
A couple times. Sometimes you think, gosh, this is such a great idea. Everybody's going to want one. And, there's MOQs you have to consider, which is the minimum order quantities of different components. And so you balance that out. I did make the mistake many times, maybe ordering too much. There was a dog bowl we made that was a spill-proof dog bowl with that you literally can kick it and the water won't splash out and the kibble will roll down and put in these little trays that you can dump it back in. So it had this like little system, and we still sell those, but we really over ordered on inventory because our cost of goods weren't as competitive as they should have been from day one. And so now we really are sensitive to the numbers. That was something I really learned along the way is you really got to get the data right. The numbers have to work. And I now have this kind of template that I use with the profit and loss. It's a modified profit and loss statement for each of our products. And it starts at the top with what the sales price is and what the shipping that we charge, and then it deducts the cost of goods, your advertising cost, our shipping fulfillment, the freight cost, the taxes and tariffs, and all of that comes down. What's our profit of each unit? It's called unit economics. And if that doesn't work, you got to go back to the drawing board, because you got to make it work from at least a unit standpoint.
Yeah, that's right.
And, we shoot for about 35 to 45% gross net margin on those, so that maybe that can cover our overhead of the company, which would bring it down to maybe a 20% to 25% overall for the company.
Overall net.
Yeah. So we try to start with the unit economics, make that work. If that does work, we move forward with the next step of it, or we try to redesign it if it doesn't fit. And we have a great, team of suppliers, and we have people that do our metals, our plastics, our wood, our fabrics, our cut and sew, all these like pieces and parts of different products that we've developed relationships over time that we keep making sure that they're the lowest and best quality. And that's really helped. So with that, we can a lot of times hit our cost of goods. So some people might be surprised by this, but let's say your cost of goods is say $10. We're looking for the price of that about $50. That's a 5x multiple.
Yeah, so 80% gross margin.
Yeah, and that can change a lot with the size and how much it takes to ship it, and all of the tariffs are a big deal now. You have to consider that before anything. And so a lot of people think, oh yeah, if I buy it for $20, I can sell it for $40. I'm like, no, it's got to be a lot more than that, because if it does do well on your website and maybe you want to go retail with it, now you got to give them half, right? They want half, and so there goes your profit margin if you were thinking that was all yours. So you want that room to expand, and if it does well and online with your own website, that's great, because those are higher profit margins. But then if you want to go to retail, if you want to do affiliate links or do what's now common as TikTok Shop, TikTok Shop is great, but the way TikTok Shop works is most of your product is sold by influencers who have chosen to take on your brand and promote your product. Well, they want 15, 20, 25%. And so there's always these cost centers that you got to consider that a lot of people who come to us with a product idea hadn't thought through yet. And so a part of our process is we kind of show them how it becomes profitable for them if they ever did, when they launch.
So it sounds like you do not just in manufacturing, but really like full product development, like consulting on what the pricing strategy should be. Are you also strategizing in terms of marketing? So like, here's where you should market this. Kind of walk through the soup to nuts. Let's say I'm an influencer and I want to create knee sleeves, right? I'm a power lifter and I want to create custom knee sleeves, right? What would the process look like working with you?
Well, yes, we do offer a lot of advice in the marketing area. But before we ever get to that, maybe let's start with the product, right?
Yes.
So if the product, how far along have they gotten on their own? Have they built a prototype of their own? A lot of, I like to see somebody come to us with something that's already been, they've kind of tested out something even in their garage, just to show something. It shows that they've put skin in the game. They're committed to it. They've already learned a lot of the early lessons from it. And so if they have something in hand, it really propels the process way ahead, much faster. But sometimes it's just an idea, which ends up just taking a lot more time and also more money, because now we have to do all the prototyping and finding the what's failed, what works in the product before it gets to be manufacturable. But what we'll do is we'll try to do, like, say, a quick brainstorm. I'll just take this wheel, for example.
Yeah.
He walked into our office. He kind of described it in about 2 minutes, and I'm like, okay, I kind of see what you're going for. And we went over to the whiteboard, which is right around the corner here, and I said, so kind of like this, and he's like, yeah, kind of like this, and that was another 2 minutes. And so within those 4 minutes, we got a good idea of kind of what he's looking for. And I said, okay, I think I got it. I said, do you have about 15 minutes? He goes, yeah, I got 15. I said, so come here, let me get on the computer. We start doing a quick draft on the CAD, and by the time he left in that hour, he had a 3D printed model of his product in his hand. So we can really go quick if we can find that like pathway and we get lucky a bit in how it works. But more complex products aren't as lucky, as sometimes it takes, months to reiterate and get samples, test something, figure out it doesn't work and get better at it. But something as simple as a product like this plastic wheel, we can print it out on our 3D printer. By the time he left, he had something to take to his next meeting and try it out with his clients. So it can be that fast, but it's not always that way. So I don't want to give and then what we do is we develop it further, make sure it's manufacturable, maybe really go into the details with our engineering team with how it feels, different materials, what colors, what finishes should it have. Maybe we put a little metal plate up, detail up here, or make it shiny or glittery or something like that. And then eventually we'll just go to tooling. And so the way we work with our clients is we'll basically quote them a manufacturing price. They don't have to use us, but 9 out of 10 times they do, because they trust we know what we're doing, that we've already shown how we know how it's made. And we have our own factory in Asia that when we go to manufacture, we develop out all the quality controls documents, all the assembly instructions, and we have our team learn and train how to build it, package it, and then we put a container of them together and we have it delivered to either our warehouse or theirs. We have 4 warehouses around the globe. We have one here in California, another on the East Coast in New Jersey, one in Canada. Oh, actually, we have UK and Australia, so that's 5. So we can cover the English-speaking world pretty quickly with a product that does well. I would start off slow and try to start with one region and then expand from there. But if they wanted, our clients do use our warehouses and our fulfillment services for them. But some of them choose their own warehouses and they have their own fulfillment systems already in place. So that's up to them if they want to do that.
How do you market your own products? What are the strategies you use?
Gosh, marketing is one of those areas that it just keeps growing, and so and strategies change so fast. I remember the days when Facebook ads was so easy. I was like, you could put $100 on Facebook ads and just sell $10,000 of product without even trying.
Yeah.
It was because Facebook ads were so cheap and they were just getting started, so they didn't know what to price their ad space. Now everybody's doing it, so the price has gone up, and pretty much it's gotten to the point where it's a race to the bottom, because there's companies that will pay $100 a click or $100 a post, and you're like, how am I supposed to compete with that? Like, you can't, so strategies have changed, so you have to be very careful. Everything is so tightly, every dollar and cent counts.
Yes.
So you have to be good at knowing what when you're doing ad buying. So we have a person that does all of our ad buying, all of our paid ads, and we're always trying to find better ways to get creative with our ads and our content. We have somebody in charge of creative and gathering that creative and building that creative, working with influencers, getting them to help with creative. That's always been great to outreach to those that are fantastic at it. Yeah. They are fantastic at creating 30-second snippets, and we just aren't as well. We'd like to be, but they do it as a living. And they ask for very little, really. I mean, if you think about it, for having an amazing viral ad that goes viral, you're like, geez, here, take my money. I mean, you've done a great job. And some of them aren't. But so that's one. We work a lot with influencer marketing. Email marketing turns out to be an amazing, I think it's 20% of our revenue is just from recurring email marketing. And it seems like such a dull, unexciting.
But it stayed as reliable.
Yeah, it stays reliable. It's amazing the response level you get, and it's so reliable. And so yes, we've seen the light. I remember listening to a podcast and somebody saying, that they do so well with email marketing. I'm like, oh, come on, email marketing. Who reads emails anymore? And then we kind of put some effort into it and we're like, okay, now I get it. That's important. So email marketing is a big one for us. We are just getting started a lot deeper with the TikTok shop. That seems to me right now that's what Facebook was, the golden age of Facebook is now what the TikTok shop is. It did go down for one day, the day before the inauguration, but it's back on, baby. So let's keep it moving. And so, I'm pretty impressed with TikTok shop because they're the first platform to be able to match the influencers with the brands all on the same platform, not using outside plugins or nothing like that. It's all built in there. It even has a way for you to get the the samples to the influencers, let them try it, test it, post the videos. That the commissions are all built in. It's all part of the platform. It's all built in. It's all under one roof. It's all under one roof. The shipping is under one roof. The fulfillment is under one roof. The TikTok, the ads, all of the content generation, and of course what we're all familiar with, the front end is all there too.
Yeah.
But yeah, TikTok did it right. And I say this with, not that, it is a Chinese company and, I want to root for America, but dang, I mean, somebody should have saw that coming earlier because they just said, why not do all of it? Why not? Because clearly influencers are, posting, they're trying to find brands. Brands are trying to find influencers. Why not just make a match site inside TikTok? And then why not have the fulfillment also part of TikTok? And then why not also have the warehousing and the payment systems on TikTok, right? With Facebook, you would have to go off. Well, now they have it a part of Facebook, but earlier you would have to go off to your website and buy the product and then back on. So TikTok said, no, we're going to keep you on the site. Everything's built in, and that's why it's, I think, going to be compete pretty harshly with Facebook and all the other socials. So I think.
What about YouTube or Instagram? I mean, so I spend like way more time than I care to admit on YouTube. Like probably easily 95% of the videos that enter my eyeballs are on YouTube. Yeah. And I know YouTube has a commerce integration and you can buy like merch and stuff, but do you do any marketing on YouTube or with Google?
We do. They don't have it as smoothly seem to get, pulled together like TikTok Shop does. But I would say a good half of our revenue comes from Google search still, which is weird for a lot of people to hear. They think that's very archaic.
I believe it.
I do know that a lot of marketing agencies, we choose to do it in-house, but a lot of marketing agencies really rely on Facebook to drive most of their traffic. We don't find it that's the case for us. Google is still our number one driver, Google search. And maybe it's because we have good keyword legacy, SEO built because we've been around for so long. So maybe there's something, to that. But yeah, Google's been good for us. Now that's changing now, right? With AI, Google is now posting AI snippets at the top of their search results. And a lot of marketers and brands are wondering, what does that mean? Because before I would be able to pay to get a spot for somebody to see my product. Now it moves down and an AI response moves up. Yeah. You can't blame Google because Google's like, well, if we don't do this, we're going to go really out of business because they can't just not do AI because then nobody would go search on Google anymore. So they've been
pushing that hard. So all of my online, I use Google Sheets and Google Gmail and all that stuff. And every time I log in, it's like, Gemini, would you like help? Would you like me to summarize?
They do push that hard. But I'm talking about when you search for something on Google and it gives you that response in an AI, and that is taking clicks away from and removing revenue for Google, and also removing traffic from the brands that are wanting to pay for that spot. Yeah. So that is definitely going to change over the next couple of years, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these AI platforms kind of become our search tool of choice. And Google's scared of that. They think, I don't know about you, but a lot of people I know they don't search on Google anymore. They go directly to ChatGPT and they search their question they're asking on ChatGPT, and it gives them the answer. Let's say you're looking for a new faucet and you want to know how to install it. You don't go to Google and ask about how to install it. You go to ChatGPT and it tells you. And so now Google loses out on that search traffic. And I think they're scared.
That is their lifeblood.
That's a big deal for them. And I'm not quite sure how to respond to that from a branding perspective. How do we keep that? Because I told you, at least half of our, traffic comes from Google search. So if that starts to come down, and what's the next thing? Where do we find a way to, promote that and get that traffic?
So I feel like whether you're TikTok or Google or Facebook or ChatGPT, all of these companies are really competing to get to one thing, and it is who gives you the right answer, right? So as long as you're the right answer, it's not so much about game. I mean, SEO kind of be a game in a way, but at the end of the day, I think it's really about just making sure you're the right answer. I'm not an expert marketer, but they're all that's really what it's a race to get to the right answer first, right? You want to know something, and indexing was the best way to do it. Now AI has created a better mousetrap where they're getting to a better answer, right? And Google has to get to the right answer or they're going to get their lunch eaten.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. What do you enjoy most about running a product development company?
I mean, I have to admit, I'm an engineer and my heart is in the engineering side of things. So although I do know a lot about this marketing stuff, when I want to go find my happy place, I come here in my cave, my man cave, so to speak, and I just think of new product ideas. And I love that process. I love the puzzle of it, trying to solve the puzzle. I have a pretty unique way of going about kind of prototyping my products. I'll get stuff off of Amazon. I'll go to Home Depot and I'll just say, all right, well, this fits with this, and let's see what happens when I turn that on. And and in our company we call it kit bashing, which is an old term from using Lego kits. And you would just take Lego pieces here and figure out if this fits there, and you kind of build something, and then it kind of barely is standing, but you kind of get an idea of what it feels like, how it might work.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of kit bashing here. I got a bunch of tools in the back that we'll just cut stuff up. We'll get some metal tubes over here, some wood pieces from over there, and we'll just kind of like shave it all together. The 3D printing world is awesome. That's really become something that we use a lot of now. But I just love that puzzle solving process. Yeah.
So it sounds like there's clearly an analytical side to it, but there's a creativity to it. There's a play to it.
Yes.
that you enjoy.
Yeah, and if you really are, I can see where you're going with it, and it's true. There's the zone, you get into the zone, and it's the creative zone, and I think a lot of artists would say this, and maybe even, it's almost like a runner's high, right? You get into the zone, and you don't even know what time it is anymore. The clock is going fast, it's going slow. You get into the zone, and you just absorb, and the focus comes in, and everything kind of closes in, and all you can see is the light at the end of the tunnel, and there's a bit of a high. There's a high that I get from it. And I actually attended a conference that was all about getting into the zone. It's one of the and I have great music that I listen to that's called flow music to get you into the flow.
Oh,
so
what do you like?
I have a whole playlist on this, and so I get into this zone, and I kind of turn the lights off, and I get into the zone. Yeah, flow triggers. Go search
flow triggers.
Flow triggers is a playlist I listen to. It's kind of a EDM drum beat, kind of a motivational melodic background music. And I listen to that, and I kind of get into my creative zone, as you can imagine.
Sick. I found something on YouTube. Yeah, so flow state music, alpha binaural beats, whatever that means.
Yeah, those will actually, if I'm not mistaken, I think there's science behind that one, where there's a little bit of the sound is almost like a heartbeat, and it's massaging your brain. It feels like, especially if you have earbuds in or headphones on, there's this humming that goes in and out on that particular type of music that literally feels like somebody's massaging your brain as you're thinking.
Wow. Yeah. And probably the physical sound waves probably are. They're probably doing something.
Yeah, there's something to it. It does feel like you're kind of in a trance almost. So yeah, I do that, and what I was getting at was there's just a psychological high that I get from it. And I went to this conference, and they're trying to teach me how to get into the zone, because everybody wants to be in the zone. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I want to be in the zone. And then a couple months went by, and I'm like, actually, I think I have the opposite problem. I like it so much. I'm in the zone too much, and I forget I had to pick up my daughter from soccer practice, or I need to go. I forgot I was supposed to be somewhere or whatever, because time just dilates, and so I called up the one of the reps from the conference, and I was like, is there anybody that says they actually want to make sure that they're out of the zone sometimes? And they're like, actually, it's funny you say that, because there are a lot of people that really need to snap out of it sometimes because they're just too deep.
They're too in the zone.
Yeah,
your confidence is too effective.
It's too effective sometimes, because you got to set a timer or get an alarm in here somewhere, so it snaps you out of the zone, and because you can really go deep sometimes. So interesting.
So where do you want to take BlueKube? What does the future look like?
We're having a good time building all these products, and as we get better and better at it, we're speeding through the process, and we're looking for new clients all the time that like to come up with new products. Not every client's the perfect fit. It does sometimes take some capital to go to put to these products. It requires inventory that you have to buy. So I wish that we could help everybody. Every mom and pop that had a good idea, but there does need to be some capital behind it. And then there also does need to, if they have some experience with marketing and knowing how they're going to sell the first 100 units or how they're going to sell the first 1 unit, to be honest, that's helpful, right? Because, we have worked with some clients that are like, well, I just have the idea. I was hoping you would just design it and then make it and then
market, sell it,
and then give us half. And I'm like, no, that's not how this works. I can't. I don't go. You just don't come through it because ideas are a dime a dozen, right? Like I said at the top, everybody has one, and ideas are great and they are fruitful, but you need to execute on them and then know how to take it to the next step. The idea doesn't just grow on its own. You have to nurture that idea and get it to be in the hands of somebody who's willing to pay for it, open their wallet and say, I want this. This is valuable enough to me that it's worth this price. And so there's a lot to getting a product to market, but there are a lot of people that are in that position and they're like, gosh, all we need is somebody like BlueKube to take it to the next level and then get it across the finish line. I have a new client that just we brought on board who worked 7 years on trying to get their product finished.
Wow.
And they ran into a wall and they're like, we don't know what to do anymore. The guy that designed it, the first one, he ditched us, and the other guy that we hired after him won't give us any files. And there's all these issues and I'm like, well, let's give it a shot. And within 3 months, we had the whole thing redesigned from scratch and ready to, we're actually going to be starting production in the next week or two. So we're happy to say that, sometimes we're the fixers of some of these situations.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So if you're out there and you've got a product you want to bring to market, go to BlueKube.com, and that's cube with a K.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
BlueKube.com.
Yeah. Thanks.
Wonderful.
I appreciate the plug.
Absolutely. Is there anything else you want to shout out? Any charities or causes? Well, you live in Simi Valley. We talked about this before we came on. You and your family are okay, but definitely people that have been affected by the recent fires down there. Yeah,
it's been a tough couple weeks here. As I think I had mentioned, my son's football coach, he lost his house. He lost his mom's house, and he lost his sister, and that's just got to be devastating. And so, we all chipped in to help him get it back on his feet. He was on 60 Minutes, did a interview with them to showing all the devastation that's happened. But that would be an amazing charity to throw out, to just say if there's any way you could help those that have lost their house. I don't know, this hasn't been talked a lot about in the news, but around here, insurance companies have been dropping insurance for their homes for wildfires, and that happened like 3 months ago.
3 months. I heard State Farm pulled out completely.
Yeah, our neighbors were going, hey, they're texting us going, hey, what are you guys going to do for your fire insurance? And I'm like, gosh, I looked it up and we still had it, so we're good. But our neighbors lost their fire insurance. So I don't know what those guys are going to do with all their homes. There was thousands of homes gone, and I don't know what they're going to do. So I'm sure it'll all get flushed out. I'm sure legal teams are all going to fight over it and figure out what to do. But, that's, I'm sure, years in the making. And while that's all happening, they don't have a house. Where are they going to stay? They got to go find a new home while still paying the mortgage on their old burnt down home. It's going to be awful for those guys.
Yeah. So be a good citizen. If you know anybody who's affected, then please reach out to them. Take someone into your home, provide food, even thoughts and prayers, but
seriously, just that alone is going to be helpful. Thank you.
Well, Brandon, thank you so much. We can go on for quite a bit of time. You promised an hour. We're at an hour. So thank you so much. Everybody knows where to find you. What social platforms are you present on?
Most of our social platforms are brand specific. So for all the products that we have, our socials are brand specific. So for the dog product, the fitness product, we use our brands for that. But for BlueKube, our website is a great place to find us. So BlueKube.com would be great.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Michael, it was really a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.